Just when you thought John Wick could not get any more action-packed and in your face, they hit you with Parabellum, which is a supercharged, sweat-inducing, adrenaline-filled ride that is one of the greatest action films in cinematic history.
John Wick 3 Parabellum is directed by Chad Stahelski, who also helmed John Wick and John Wick 2. This film once again brings back Keanu Reeves, and now we have Halle Berry, Lawrence Fishburne, and Ian McShane. Parabellum picks up right after the events of John Wick 2, and of course in that film, John Wick killed a member of the High Table in the grounds of the Continental Hotel, which of course is a big no-no, right? Breaking the rules. Yeah. And so now John Wick has been deemed excommunicado, and there is a $14 million price on his head. And so you have a slew of assassins coming from all different angles and all different sides, chasing down John Wick. And of course, no one can stand up against Baba Yaga.
Yeah, not even the best assassins money can buy, or that hell can contrive, because John Wick, like as in the previous movies, he's just basically superhuman, and they make it very obvious in this movie.
He has more lives than a cat.
Yeah, and make no mistake, this is a movie that has marginalized the storyline a little bit for action, right? We talked about this having a slew of action. I mean, this we watched it with some people where they told me I was anxious the entire movie.
Of course, and that's really what makes this, in my opinion, one of the best action films of all time, because it's how eclectic they make the action scenes and how different the staging of each action scene is, and they change up the weapons, and they change up the set designs, and they change up the backdrop, the colors, the backgrounds, the locales, and so it's like you're watching a bunch of different action movies almost in one big action film.
You mentioned that, and there were times where I was watching this, especially in the third act, where I was thinking, this is kind of like Bruce Lee's Game of Death. This is also like The Matrix.
Right.
Like you said, it's all over the place. They find new ways for John Wick to kill people. I don't want to give too much away, but there's a scene in a stable. There's a scene in the library, which I thought was pretty hilarious.
Yeah, there's a knife
my favorite scene.
Yeah, which is super visceral, super palpable.
Yes.
I mean, you can hear the bones crunching. The sound effects are so good. You can hear, the limbs being cut off, and it's amazing what they accomplish in this film as far as sound effects and just putting everything together. The music, the sound effects, the set designs, and it's so frenetic, so in your face. Again, like you mentioned, comparing to the Matrix trilogy, I haven't had an experience that palpable in the theater probably since Mad Max Fury Road, as far as an action film is concerned. I felt that way in that movie.
Yeah, the knives, going back to the knife scene, actually, you see it in the trailer, but that's just a taste of how fantastically done that movie is. A lot of the fight scenes are in long takes. In the knife scene, for example, it slices back and forth between hand-to-hand combat and just knife throwing and axe throwing. It's crazy, guys.
Yeah.
This will take your breath away. And speaking of breath, yes, this is an action movie where like none other, okay, but you do get some moments to breathe. They do try to delve a little bit into his backstory, which I appreciated. There are moments for actual plot movement, but again, you kind of
they're far few in between,
right?
I mean, out of the 3 John Wick films, this is definitely the most action-packed.
Right.
And so going back to the action scenes, I do want to throw in really quick that I loved the Halle Berry dog action scene. I just wanted to throw that in there because the training that she probably had to undergo, and those dogs, man, like that was some crazy stunts and work that they pulled off. And then the motorcycle scene with the camera work, it's so seamless and it flows so well. I was captivated. I mean, the action scenes are really captivating and engrossing. But then going back to what you were saying about story and time to breathe, right? I felt that the first John Wick probably does the best job at really exploring this character's background, and I felt that was kind of lacking in this movie a little bit. You still get those themes of like, shifting loyalties and like, an eye for an eye and revenge and things of that nature. I don't know, I kind of missed out on a little bit more character development and motivation, personally.
You know, I totally get it. I kind of feel like they looked at this film was like, okay, everyone goes to watch a John Wick film for some over-the-top action and in-your-face splatter, and so let's just keep with that, and how can we make it even bigger and better, right? And so yeah, so they did kind of shrink the storyline a little bit. I do feel like a lot of the action sequences, although they were massively choreographed, were dragging. Some of those really dragged, especially
they went on for
a
long time.
A long time,
yeah. And I know that they were trying to do something different. And how can we shock audiences more? How can we, make it more exciting for audiences? And they did that to a certain extent, but I don't know if they really did it.
Yeah, I'm sure
the best capacity.
I'm sure these people will look back at this movie and say, you know what, we had some cool elements in there as far as plot that we should have developed more. So for example, I really enjoyed the twists and turns that the plot took. They just didn't really develop it very well. And then it was like, okay, here's a little bit of story and back to knives and faces and eyeballs and people getting their jaws broken and heads smashed in. And and I do want to inject that I really thought that Angelica Houston did a really good job in this movie. She played, I guess, like the head of a ballet school, but that obviously is kind of a front for a criminal organization.
Right.
She's under the high table. I like the dialogue, loved her acting. There was another actor, Mark Dacascos, who a lot of people might recognize from Iron Chef America. He was the chairman, right, who would always be like, and here's your secret ingredient, you know? He actually surprised me in this movie.
Yeah.
I thought he was just gonna be another character, but his acting really came through.
Yeah.
He's a martial artist, but
one of his greatest rivals, John Wick's greatest rivals in this movie, and it was kind of funny at times, very tongue-in-cheek, if you will.
Yeah, he was, and I kind of thought that, you know, I slide this in here too, that some of that humor just overall was good throughout the movie, but a little overdone maybe in the third act.
This is a highly stylized movie, and there's so much eye candy to appreciate, you know, artistically, and as far as technicality, it is top notch. As far as the stunts, the action sequences, some of the best I've ever seen.
Yep.
Of course, there can be improvements with the story, there can be improvements with the character development, but this is an action film, and we know what we're gonna get, and we got that. So I'm gonna do something a little bit different this time, and I'm gonna give this movie 5 reels as far as an action film.
Okay.
But 4 reels as far as an overall film rating.
Aren't you kind of hedging it a little bit? You're kind of playing both sides. You can't just pick one.
Nope. Nope, I can't just pick one. What? So give it 4.5 reels?
I guess maybe.
No. No, I like story. I really like story, and I really like character development. But I love action flicks. This is a masterful action flick, but not a great movie overall.
Right.
So.
Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'll stick with one rating. I'm going to give this 4 reels. Now, I personally enjoyed this more than the first 2, right? Because I just love that gratuitous violence. I just do, right?
I didn't.
I did.
I enjoyed the first 2 more, personally.
Yeah. No, and I totally get that, right? So like I was saying, I kind of felt like the story lagged, so that's what dropped it to a 4. But what carried it up, obviously, was the action sequences, the sound and the sound, the score, the backdrops, the colors, really adding to that heightened anxiety throughout the movie. So that's my rating. I will say that something happens at the end, which it did not ruin the movie for me, but it did not sit well with me. I was feeling off for about 3 hours after that movie because of what
happens in the end. Yeah.
So anyway, so there you go, guys. Definitely a movie you want to watch. You have to watch in a theater if you're gonna watch it.
Oh yeah, on the big screen, on an IMAX screen maybe, or XD theater. Definitely worth the watch. So if you're a fan of the John Wick films, please let us know where this film stands alongside the first 2 entries. Is it a better film? Is it more action-packed? What are your thoughts? And also look us up on social media. We're on Facebook at Real Screeners and Instagram real.screeners.
And as always, guys, we tell you, whenever you watch a movie, if you can, find an Alamo Draft House. It is the place to watch flicks.
The best place in town.
And if you like this video, hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see more from the Real Screeners. That'll do it for Beto and Lenny. We'll see you next time when we give our real takes on movies. Just when you thought John Wick could not get any, oh wow.
John Wick
John Wick
Just when you thought John Wick creaky.
Like in the knife scene, for example, it jocks? I'm going to say jockey.
It juxtaposes.